I mean, Orb, on one hand, you have to respect the fact that the characters in question are simultaneously the most important and least important all at the same time, meaning they can easily eliminate anyone at a moment's notice. But on the flip side, I'm still recovering from Raffle. And even if I didn't totally expect our boy Gross to be the overall MC forever, I expected more than 2 episodes with him. And you can't convince me otherwise that he could have grabbed onto those bricks and saved himself. I understand it's part of the narrative, not just because he had to die for Ochi to get out of his shell, but mainly because he was actually content with dying and he thought it would progress him into where he needs to go versus his end, which he felt like would be okay there. But what the I have full live reactions over on Patreon. If you want to see my mind break in real time to this orb of greatness, it's over there exclusively. I still say it's easily anime of the season, if not potential to be anime of the year when it's all said and done. This is probably one of the only anime that the main character in actuality is the narrative. The narrative is the most important thing, which is the progression of understanding Earth and the universe that surrounds them. Everyone else is, in a way, kind of a bystander. And this is obviously going to be a show with a lot of characters. I wouldn't even be shocked if it's not just characters who die that get eliminated and why they're no longer maybe one of the MCs, but maybe just not believing or being pushed away for one reason or another. In my heart, I'm going to hold on to the hope that our boy Gross is going to come back. It wasn't that insane of a fall. Granted, I understand how dangerous water is, especially with how rapid that water was. You kind of get a little disoriented for even a couple seconds. You could easily drown. There's probably rocks down there. He very well could be gone for good. I'm not going to deny that, but at the same time, I'm going to hold on to hope because I quite liked his character. The thing is what's so fascinating about this show, and what I've really come to, I think, appreciate the most now over 5 episodes, especially seeing what they did by the end of the 3rd episode, which, of course, was the elimination of Raffle, is the fact that the show is bigger than a singular character. And I wasn't exactly sure where they were going to go after the end of episode 3. There's a couple of directions. Either we stick to one time period, which at this point I think they are going to do. We did have the 10-year time skip after, of course, our boy's death. Or they were going to go the route of multiple bigger time jumps and the research would collectively be worked on over the years. Still a possibility, but at this point, given that, of course, we have our favorite torturer, I mean, as far as we know, Raffle's father's still alive. It does feel like it's going to be a collective sticking in this area, but either way, the fact that the show's bigger than a singular character, and the fact that not just in the way that they can eliminate anyone, and because they're not the overall most important thing, we don't care. Like, no, legitimately, I like them as people and the stories that they're telling, and even characters that may frustrate me, such as, well, Ochi, because Ochi's just... he's scared of the sky, man. It's funny, but sad all at the same time. I appreciate everyone's addition to the story, and I don't necessarily want anyone to be eliminated. I either just want to see them grow or be surrounded by other characters. And given that we do end the episode with meeting a monk who... I mean, if a dude's so religious to the point that he thinks his existence is pathetic and worthwhile on Earth and his only real option is to wait for the end... I'm hoping this religious monk is going to be enough to shape his viewpoint because goddamn does he need some sort of guidance. The thing I really appreciate about this episode is that Ochi as a character, is clear they were setting him up to be like the proper like lead for however long it might be. Maybe for the whole story and he'll be surrounded by other characters who will aid him, or it will be a collective, move of who we actually follow. The thing is I never expected him to be scared of the sky. That's a very interesting fear, because the way he explains it, almost like the stars are looking down on him like he's a child, right? Like, it's this very fearful thing because of what was told to him when he was younger. It's pretty sad. I mean, I never noticed it, but when you actually do focus on him, he does kind of look downwards a lot more, especially during the night scenes. So the fact that he's just been so isolated into such a... like, even if you're not fascinated by the sky... no one can look up at a night sky with stars and say, yeah, that's ugly, or, nah, I'm good with never seeing that again. Like, that would truly be sad. So the idea that... here's the thing. I don't think Gross had to die. I think if he really put up a fight, he could have survived alongside Ochi, because I do think he had enough of a reach or a quick swing, he would have been able to grab onto the bricks. Was the bridge not that secure and there is a risk of blah? Sure. But I think if he really wanted to, he could have survived. But I think that's kind of part of the whole point is that one character was okay with dying there. There was no fear in death, fully believing that he probably will see his family on the other side. It's kind of beautiful when you think of it. Where another person, at face value, is saying, I just await death, but is actually scared of death. The idea of like letting go and hopefully pushing him onto the path of, he has two options: turn over the research, probably get let back in and continue on his shit life, or start asking the questions and maybe finding the true beauty in life so that you're not just waiting for death. Because the interesting thing about the religious messaging here is that some of the characters, and especially these two, they both believe in some sort of eternal paradise, but it's the idea of like also not abandoning the current life versus where Ochi's kind of doing that as it stands, and it's very sad. Because, you know, it's heartbreaking to see someone who's been so beaten down that he thinks the only way that he'll ever be happy is when his time comes. He's not to the point of jumping off of buildings and stuff, but like it's pretty damn sad. And that's what I like about the messaging behind the characters, is that anyone could be eliminated at any time, whether because the church sees you as a heathen, whether an accident or a murder happens. There's a lot of ways things can go wrong, but I appreciate the fact that even if characters might only be there for a couple episodes or 3 episodes, I find their importance and their relevancy to the story so good, and the fact that this author isn't afraid to kill characters and even kind of point out the fact that if he really had that drive, he probably could have survived. But it's the fact that they do have that belief and they're okay with certain ends happening, especially if it's going to help a friend progress into a proper beginning in a lot of ways. My only real issue with this episode was how dark the first half was. Like, if you compare the difference when the characters first get into the mountainside when they're looking for the chest, a lot more better produced in my opinion. You just kind of feel like, okay, yeah, they're properly lit up. Versus the first half where I could barely see the characters. Granted, it's partially due to my eyes. Some people have more trouble seeing dimmer scenes. But I don't know, I just kind of felt like if we compare the second half to the first half with the nighttime scenes, one was way more visibly interesting. And honestly, I get the idea of it's hard to see. They're trying to shoot this, that, and the third. But I think they could have lit up the character models a little bit better and it would have worked a lot better if you ask me, but that's just my feelings. Let me know what you thought. They definitely gotta stop killing the MCs, but damn, is it good for effective storytelling. But thoughts down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Beatrice, Zuda, Jonathan Bromlow, Chawik, and we also have Aesop. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and I guess don't get too attached to the characters in this show, because you never know when they're going to eliminate them. Have a good one.